Oh man, I hate Mondays.
Nah, man, it's Tuesday.
Wait. What day is it?
You know what day it is? Tuesday. Brewsday, Tuesday.
Oh, fuck yeah! Grab a cold one. It's Brewsday Tuesday, brought to you by the Cellar and Six Pack Store. Here's DreZ and Big Nate.
There's that sound we know and love. It is Brewsday Tuesday, brought to you indeed by the Cellar Restaurant and Six Pack Store in downtown Blacksburg. A nice beer selection and some damn good food. That's hard to beat, isn't it, there, Nate?
That's, I mean, the absolute dream is to live within walking distance, to be honest with you.
Well, yeah, and unfortunately, I think that's how we got him. Because Huck used to stumbling distance, I guess you could say. I know that was one of his spots. Good old Huckster. Good old Huckster. I need to hit him up. It's been a minute. I need to check in, see how he's doing. We digress though. So today, we're going to be drinking some stuff that I brought back from my Memorial Day little RV trip I did. Me and my BB, we hopped in the RV and we took a trip down to Shenandoah National Park. And we stayed in Fort Royal, we stayed in Waynesboro, and went to as many breweries and places to drink beer as possible. One of the spots that we stopped at, in fact, and did stay at, we'll get to it eventually, Basic City. And I have bought from them. And frankly, I feel like in hindsight, I feel like maybe I should have bought more, because this 4-pack of the Lore, which is a DIPA, my go-to style, was actually on sale. And so it was only $10 for the 4-pack. And hindsight, I probably should have, I'm guessing I probably will have wanted to get more. This is an 8% beer. DIPA, one of my, the bigger, the better. IPAs, I do love it. And basically everything that we were drinking there was pretty damn good. In fact, I know for a fact that the beer that you just popped is probably one of BB's favorite beers of the year.
Ooh.
So you can tell the listeners what you just cracked.
Very excited, Chasman. It's Basic City, obviously. It's part of their street art tart series. It's the Cuban Pastelitos. And I'm very excited about this one. It's sour with guava, lactose, and vanilla bean. 6% ABV, which is pretty good for a sour. But if you look at that color, man, that is just a beautiful beer. 6% ABV. I'm very excited to dig into this, because your wife and I seem to see eye to eye a lot on
similar
brews.
Palates when it comes to the sour weird stuff. And honestly, I didn't even think that one was too terrible, but she was very excited about it. Quite flavorful, a lot of different flavors packed in there. So I had never been to Shenandoah National Park, believe it or not. We did that whole RV excursion and went to like 24 national parks. That sort of became our focus because it was still pretty COVID-y and a lot of stuff was closed. And we come to really love and appreciate the parks. And it's funny because I had never even been to the one in our own backyard. So we went. You've been before, correct?
That was my stomping grounds for a good portion of my high school years. I love, like, particularly that Skyline Drive area.
Yeah, well, that's essentially the whole. That's it. The Skyline Drive. We did the entire 105 miles of the Skyline Drive, and pulled over at certain overlooks. Did a few hikes. We did do the hike. What was it? They're all like hollows or burrows or this or that. So I think it was like Fox Hollow Trail. Maybe was to the peak of the highest part in the park. Where you kind of get even like a 360 view. And it was quite nice. We did see a hawk while we were up there, which was cool.
It's there was one that the last time I went up there, it was probably about 3 years ago. My dad and I met up for a random hike. I don't know where my wife was, but she didn't go with us. It was just dad and I, and we ended up camping. I'll never forget, we couldn't have picked worse weather, and I think it was that Fox Hollow Trail you mentioned. The fog, like all the way up the mountain, never cleared up. So all day we're just navigating through the forest with fog that's so dense. It was probably mid to late spring, and it had been raining, but fog, like you could see maybe 10 feet in front of you. And like we kept walking up on random wild animals. Like I was within 5 feet of a deer at one point, and I was like, this is just absolutely absurd. We're gonna run into a bear out here and get mauled to death. That's the end of Big Nate.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that because we went to the visitor center and like I said, I've been all around the country going to the national parks, and they show you, they kind of have almost like taxidermy, not taxidermy though, but like models of like the wildlife that you can see. And it's just so funny because it's just like, oh, well, this is all like crap I see all the time. Like it was like, oh, you might see a deer or a groundhog or a
Real exciting.
or a squirrel.
Oh, look, there's a possum.
Yeah, so it was kind of lackluster in that regard. The only wildlife we did see a groundhog by the road. We saw that one hawk, and then we did see a couple deer carcasses on the road. On the road. So yeah, it wasn't very. We were hoping for a bear, but I knew that our luck wouldn't be. I would. So you're saying like, oh, we're gonna walk up on. I would love. We wanted to roll up on a bear. Like that would have been awesome. But
Well,
doesn't happen.
So it is funny that you like bring that up, that we do take that for granted, because I'm thinking of like our trip cross country we took when I was in high school. I remember we're in we might have been in Yosemite. Either way, we hit a certain stretch of highway where there's a lot of like mountain goats. And I'll never forget my mom getting out of the vehicle we were in and like going to take pictures of these mountain goats. And it took like I was like, Mom, you really shouldn't disturb the wildlife. But a park ranger had to come up to her and was like, lady, this animal will severely injure you, possibly kill you, because he's a wild animal and their instinct is to headbutt.
Well, that 25-year-old girl just got killed by a bison in Yosemite just like last week or whatever.
Oh, I didn't hear about that. I mean, yeah.
I mean, because when you get and it's funny because they said that she got within like 10 feet of it, and I was just like, oh my gosh, because that's really close. And we got really damn close to some of those bison, like a little too close for comfort. Like I knew we were fine because there was also a lot of people around. I'm like, oh well, they'll go after like them probably first. They're even closer than us, but yeah, I mean, they might seem calm and stuff, but they're wild animals, dude. You can't get, you don't want to get too close.
No, and I mean that's something that I was considering recently with something that happened around here. Is it's always the tourists that have these interactions that gets them on the news.
That's because everybody else knows.
You take it for granted, but you do know, and you become conditioned. Like a native to Texas isn't getting taken out by a rattlesnake.
Mm-hmm.
It's usually someone visiting from out of town.
Yeah, well, that's a whole different ball game. But yeah, it was fun. It was nice. And so the first night we actually stayed in, was it Front Royal? So we sort of went to sort of the top, and then we did the Skyline Drive south and made our way back. So in Front Royal, there were a couple of breweries. Or actually, no, one of them. So we went to the brewery first. It was Vibrissa, I think. Also, depending on where you looked at it on Google Maps or like on Uber or whatever, because we Ubered out there from the RV. And it was either Vibrissa beer or it said Front Royal Brewing Company. So I don't know if that's sort of an interchangeable thing or what.
Maybe they changed their name recently.
Either way, very nice people. Not very good beer. Not gonna lie, it was a bit lackluster. They only had one IPA, and none of it was very delicious.
See, it shocks.
She got a cocktail that she liked.
Okay, well, that's good. And it shocks me to know that there's breweries in Front Royal now, because like I went to high school out in Rappahannock County. It was the sticks. You basically, to go to the grocery store, you either had to go to Front Royal or Culpeper County. And I remember in my experience, Front Royal was not what I would call the peak of culture.
Well, it seemed very kind of
like growing
historic sort of spot, where the brewery was. It was sort of just this old school downtown. In fact, so there was that, and then there was some other spot that looked more of like a mead kind of a thing. We opted out of that to try and go to the Virginia Beer Museum. It said that it was open, but when we got there, it was quite dark and the doors were locked. So it was not the case. So that was a little disappointing, but the beer museum sounded right up our alley. So we ended up going over to Pavement Smoke and Tap House. So this was like a barbecue joint. that also had just a lot of awesome beer, not only on tap, but in cans. And that was the gem of our front row trip because there was some really good beer. The guy there was English, so immediate bond there between him and BB. And then basically, yeah, he knew his beer for sure. So he was pointing me in the right direction. I had like I think 3 delicious beer. They had an Aslan beer I hadn't tried before, and some other good stuff. So that I highly recommend you hit up. We didn't eat because we had already eaten, unfortunately, but we probably should have gotten some food there because it smelt and looked delicious.
So now, obviously, when you guys took your big trip, you were probably eating in the RV more often than not. But like a trip like that for your like Memorial Day, when you say you'd already eaten, did you guys eat on the RV or did you go out?
I wish we had. We actually stopped and got McDonald's, which is usually a treat.
So that's a road trip staple.
It was the worst McDonald's food I think I've ever had. They butchered it. They overcharged us. It was only like 50 degrees in there. I got that new McFlurry that should be amazing because it's like chocolate covered pretzel, caramel, whatever. They didn't even mix it. Like they came in the wrong cup. They must have been like brand new and just hadn't figured stuff out yet. There was only like 4 people working there. And so the wait was forever. It was the fries. Everything was pretty much terrible except for the McNuggets. And so then that was very sad because then we ate that and then you go to a place that, I mean, we weren't even necessarily planning on going there. We just sort of like, oh, well, there's this spot. And then it was just like, why did we waste our hunger on McDonald's, crappy McDonald's?
Those are the worst moments when you accidentally find a gem after you've already like ruined your entire dining experience.
But yeah, the next night though, we fixed dinner in the RV because we for the most part on the road we would cook and stuff in the RV. So we did dinner in the RV the next evening, which I'll get to that because that's actually when we went to Basic City. But in the meantime, let's go ahead and untap this first round of beers, which will be our first and only round of beers. Ooh. Yeah, because next round is going to be a bit interesting. So the Lore, which is a DIPA, 8%. I mean, this is just a nice light. Unfortunately, if you're watching on the Facebook and the YouTube, I didn't quite hold it up, but I mean, that's exactly what you're looking for in this type of a beer. It's kind of got that nice hazy, just delicious, flavorful. Does it list? I don't know if it lists like the hops and stuff it's using, but I think there's definitely some Citra in here. It's just, it's fantastic. Not quite a 5, but I'm going to give it a 4.75. This is delicious beer.
So, I mean, that's an incredibly solid rating, and this one's going to be no different. It's their Cuban Pastelitos, which is, of course, sour with guava, lactose, and vanilla bean. This is the first sour I've had with lactose that I'm aware of. So, I mean, it's kind of got like that milkshakey texture to it. It's a little thicker. And
yeah, I usually don't like lactose. And you're right. I don't think sours usually would have that because they're almost like fighting flavors.
Exactly. But this to me, you almost forget that you're drinking a beer, which sometimes wouldn't be the greatest thing in the world, but I can see why this came out as her favorite beer of the year so far. And I'm going to be honest with you, this is going to be extremely high marks. It's like drinking candy. The vanilla, the guava, and the lactose all work well together. There's almost no beer aspect to it at all, though. It's delicious. I'm gonna go ahead and give it a 5. I'll say this may actually be the best sour I've ever had in my life.
Wow.
Replacing the Golden Road jalapeno cucumber.
My goodness, a 5. Wow. So she actually gave it a 4.75, and she was like, I almost want to give it a 5. She was this close. I can't remember what her reasoning was, but she's like, it might be a 5, and then she's like, I think it's a 4.75.
The only thing I have to say that isn't 5 worthy is on the label. It's very hard to read because they used a white font on light green paint.
That's where
that's probably where
the dingy.
That's where she lost the 0.25, but I'm willing to forgo that. Yeah, it's a 5.
All right. Well, that's so Basic City, delicious beer. However, this next round, we're not drinking the beer. While we were there, we saw that Basic City has CBD and Delta 8 infused seltzers, which I have yet to try. I know it's a thing, but I guess we're
taking an adventure.
We're gonna take the leap and give it a go. Coming up on Brewsday Tuesday, man. Stick around.